Hello everybody and welcome on today's video. Today I'd like to talk to you about fusion bonsai, and the first thing we're going to do is to look in this book. So this book is called, I'll translate it for you, The Beauty of Bonsai, and is edited by this editor, and this is the official number of it. I'm having some trouble with my lights here. So a few pictures are really interesting in this book. You see, for example, this awesome Japanese maple, which is a multi-trunk, and it's something that you can quite easily achieve with fusion, but I'll show you this in a later video. But the tree I really want to talk about is this one. It's hornbeam, Carpinus, and what I like so much about this tree is that it is a tree with two trunks. Now, if you think in a, let's call it, traditional way of fusion bonsai, we will have to make one big trunk and then grow the other branches, and like this one, which is a quite big branch, and it will take ages. For example, you can easily build a nice trunk with a fusion bonsai, and you will have a nice taper and everything, and it will take 2 or 3 years before all the trunks are fused, and then you'll end up with little branches where you want them, and they will become very, very thin, and they will stay very, very thin for quite a long time. So this is not gonna help. We will have to find a solution then how to grow big branches on fusion trunks. Another thing we should take in consideration when we build a trunk, it could be a wooden trunk or a foam trunk, is that this tree is not two-dimensional. It is two-dimensional on photo, but it is not in reality. So when we build the trunk, we will have to keep an eye on the three-dimensional aspect of a good bonsai. This one has two trunks. You could make something with 3 trunks, or maybe with a one big trunk and a, well, is this a branch or is this a secondary trunk? We don't know this. We also should look at these fantastic roots and how to recreate this. So the first thing to do for me is now to build a trunk, a multi-trunk. I'm going to use this foam for that, and a few tools like this is a saw, and this almost falling thing is also a saw, a little one. This I have no clue how to call it in English, but I guess you know what it is. It's to scrape and do more of a fine shaping, and of course glue to glue all the pieces of foam together. Now this is going to take a few hours, maybe a few days, and like I said before, it is okay to spend really days to build a decent trunk, because it will take you years to grow all the plants on the trunks. So take your time. So this is the paper form I came up with. I'm going to copy it now on the foam and then saw it out. So now I made 4 of these foam forms, and as you might see on the paper, this branch is not existing because this is supposed to be a back branch, and well, probably it will not be made into foam, but I will just make it as a real tree with some branches. So now let's glue this together, and I think the work for today will be done then, because it will have to dry. So this is all the pieces of foam glued together, and we just have to wait now till it's dry before we can do any more work on it. So this is the day after, and the foam structure is nice and dry and solid. So what I'm going to do now is just mark the rough shape of what I need to carve out now. This will be the main trunk, the lower part here, and it will continue like this, and the other side too. So, and that means that this part should have a little rounded shape, and that's the first thing I'm going to cut out now. So this is the trunk after the cutting, and the first thing I have to do now is to mark where I want the trunk to go. If I want the main trunk to come forward, I will have to make a shape that goes this way. I can also make it go backwards, so it's something I have to choose now. I think I'll make it something like a going a little back, and then so I will have to take care of this piece, of course, but roughly it will be something like that. So like so. So the final branching, I will send that in this direction, which is the front. So first of all, the back parts. So this is where we are now. This is the front of the tree. Well, it's not a tree. Well, anyway. And I marked the same S shape here on the foam. It's the same direction as this one. So I want to do something completely different now. So instead of going this way, like the other trunk, I'm going to go that way. So that will make a nice contrast. So I'm going to mark this on the foam. Try to go as far as possible and cut off this little part and this part, and as you might see, it is quite easy to do this with a saw. And it's always best to cut 3 times than to cut 1 time, and then notice that you cut off something that you should not have been doing. Like so. Well, we're getting there. If we look at the thickness of this branch, this is completely absurd. So it is quite clear that this branch should become less thick, and still should be a part of this trunk. So I'm going to cut away this part. Okay, this is already better. And now, to be sure that I'm not making a square tree, I'm going to start to reduce the corners just centimeter by centimeter on every side. So the sharp corners are gone now, and what should be done now is to take in consideration that a tree is not, well, it's still quite a square, you see, that a tree has some natural movement, So this part, for example, should be cut away. This part is it's not so good. The branch should emerge from here and not from the front of the trunk. So get this out of the way, and of course remove this part, like so, and then I end up with a square piece again, so get the squares away, and so on until you have a trunk that you say, well, this is kind of looking like a natural tree. Now at the junction of two trunks or branches, it's good to have a V shape, I noticed. So get this off will give a more smooth transition. So this is the picture we started with, and going to compare what I made now. Well, that's not too bad. And with my unknown name thing, I'm going to fine-tune the whole thing. And well, yeah, this looks quite okay. This piece is a little straight, should get a little curve in it. This is a little too fat at the base. So I read on the internet that this tree is about 150 years old, and should be about 80 centimeters high. Well, I'm not going to make a tree from 150 years old. So the foam trunk is constructed now, and this is the final result. Yep. As you see, I made quite a big carving parts, and I intend to use different sizes of trees to put on the foam plate. I'm going to use the biggest on top of the foam and the smaller inside the holes, just to have already a well, rugged bark. Now the difference between this fusion project and the others is that I'm going to try to, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this little branch, because it's not really thick, you know. But this one is already a thick branch, and what I want to do is to make a fusion tree that has all of the young plants following these lines. So I will need to put trees here, and I also will need to put trees there. But then the problem we will have is, if I put a tree here, it will stay on this part, but there will be no trees for the inside of this shape. So if I want to make a two trunk fusion bonsai, I need to make two fusion projects. So I'm going to have to cut this foam part into two pieces, which I'm going to do now. You'll excuse me for a second. Yeah, it's done. So to be clear about the purpose, if I want to cover this whole part with seedlings, well, I need to grow some from here, and I need to grow some from there to cover this part. So, well, next step is to get a lot of Carpinus trees, because I want to do this with a Carpinus, and yeah, well, then I will have to plant these trees on the foam. And I'm going to use the roots. No, I'm not going to make a fusion plate for this. I'm going to use the roots of the trees I find, because I'm going to need a few thick trees. Well, thick trees, I mean 1 centimeter or something. And they will form already a nice nibari. So this was part 1, the trunk. The trunks.